Nice to meet you, man. How you doing today?
Nice to meet you as well, Joe. I'm fantastic. How are you? It's great to be here.
It's great. Yeah, absolutely. It's great to meet you. Where are you coming out of?
I'm in the UK.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, I'm right here
Yeah,
in the middle of America in Kansas City, Missouri.
lovely. It's a little bit of a pond between us, so.
Yeah, yes, it is. But I always love talking over the pond because you're always ahead and I love the future, so I get to see what's going on.
Yeah, a few hours ahead. Yes, not major stuff, I suppose, but sure.
Enough of the future for sure.
Yeah,
Um, well, hey, thank you again for taking a minute out. And I want to begin our conversation with
sure.
what we lived through for the last 3.5 years, which was COVID. How did you get through the pandemic and how has it changed you now that we're kind of in this quote unquote post-pandemic era?
Uh, the the COVID situation, when it started, I had just launched my podcast, Personal Development Mastery. So,
Yeah.
because of the lockdowns, and I had the time in my hands, I went from one episode a week to two episodes a week, and that was a very big pivotal shift in my relationship with the podcast because when I went to two episodes a week, it stopped being a hobby anymore. It would consume so much time that I realized that it's a full blown passion of mine. And of course, a bit further down the line, a couple of years fast forward, it became a mission. So that period, those years for me were quite. Um, they were reflective but very productive as well. So I got concentrated and got some really important things done, because everything had quiet down. So it was for me environment to really work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, along with the podcasting, there's a lot that goes into what you do, and I want to get to the essence of that. So I'm going to
Sure.
put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day, and one of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I would say something like, if does any of you have a fantastic mom or dad that really likes to say stories and to speak with other people and help other people and teach them. So if you have a fantastic parent like that, I'm the one that helps your mom or your dad take their voice and put it on a podcast, something like the radio, so that more people can really listen to what they have to say.
So,
Something like that.
yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, that makes sense. So, when you were in the third grade, what did you want to be when you grew up?
An actor. I
Okay.
wanted to go to drama school, yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's peel back those layers a little bit. Tell me where you were born and raised and how these seeds got into you to want to be an actor, to want to be a podcast host.
Yes, sure. I was born in Greece. That's where I'm from originally. I lived in Greece until I was about 35. I studied to be a dentist. And when I was around 35, I felt a very strong calling inside of me that this is not really how I want to be living my life in the place I want to be living my life. I was in my hometown. So I took the decision. It took a while. I mean, I didn't just take it, but after a long period of deliberation, I took the decision to move to the UK and follow this kind of calling that I had, and live a life that it looked all right, but I was feeling empty inside of me. So coming to the UK and starting a completely new life here because I left everything I had behind, my job, my family, my fiance. I just came on my own with two suitcases and a desire to see how my life would be different
Yeah.
here. So I carried on practicing dentistry. The podcasting came at some point as a self-expression because I wanted to also as a creative outlet, curiosity. I think it's the word that comes to mind. I was intrigued by it, and maybe because I had never got the chance to become an actor, it was some kind, not the same but similar.
Yeah.
Speaking to people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. That takes a lot of bravery to go from one country to another. I mean, especially your home country. How long did it take for you to settle in? What kind of culture shock did you go through?
I didn't actually, and I settled in very quickly. I think in 6 months I had settled in completely, but I would say even from the first couple of months I was quite comfortable there. And I think the main reason for that, it was not like, okay, first of all, I wanted to go there, but that's not the most important reason. Was that I deliberately chose, out of all these experiences I had in a new country, and you said the culture shock, I chose deliberately only to focus on the things that I liked. So there were things that, like the weather, for example, which, coming from Greece to England, there is a weather shock, maybe not a culture shock, but a weather shock. So, I did not focus on the things that were not up to my liking. I instead focused on everything that I enjoyed about being in the new country, and that's why I acclimatized very quickly. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't have any kind of a shock or anything like
So
that.
so what do you like the best about living in the UK? What's the big difference from going from one country to another?
One thing, to be honest, it's not easy to answer that question. One thing is that it feels like I'm where I belong. Like it feels in a way more home. Uh, I don't know if that is the most appropriate word, but I feel what I said earlier, that like my life belongs here. Don't know, and I speak English now for so many years. I have the opportunity to share this message to much more people by using the English language rather than I could ever in Greece, which has a very limited population. I think that's the first thing that comes to mind to answer your question. Obviously, there are so many more things that I could say, but I will leave it to this for now.
That's great. And what I keep thinking about from a personal standpoint, my ancestors are from Italy, and
Right.
I had a pen pal in high school, and I actually went and visited her, and she was south of Florence. And I didn't plan on going to Rome, but I went, and Rome felt like something I'd been to before. It felt like what you said. There was a level of like just comfort, home. And I think about that.
Yeah.
And it's not like I wanted to move there or anything, but there was something that was so alluring and comfortable about that city to me.
Have you been since that
I
time?
haven't. I and
I
I
think
think
you must.
I I think I threw a coin in the Trevi Fountain, so I should have a ticket to go back. But
I
yeah,
think,
yeah.
yeah.
So why do you say I should go back?
The way you described it, I kind of felt like there is some kind of message there. Not necessarily, to go and move there and live there, but maybe now with how you have matured and experienced and with the wisdom you have now compared
Yes.
to then, you might have some insight. So I
Yeah.
can't back it up. It's an intuitive answer
No, no,
that
no, no,
I'm
no.
giving.
That's it. And that's what we're doing right now. We're coming from the
Yeah,
heart and it's a
exactly.
feeling and yeah, I definitely want to get back. It's been a mission of mine. So,
Yeah.
let me ask you this, who's been kind of a hero for you in your life? Someone inspirational?
I will many, but you know what? I will say the second one that came to my mind because it's very relevant. When I was in my early 20s, I was in university in Greece studying dentistry. I was best friends with someone who, at some point, felt a strong calling and he dropped out of university of dental school and he moved to Siberia and he became a shaman and a spiritual teacher. So I had this kind of opportunity to be with him while he was transforming into a completely different person, from a person learning dentistry and playing video games with me to a spiritual teacher. It's a very big difference. And because I was still friends with him, he really, I looked up to him because I simply very understood very well what he was telling me. So he really, I say often that after my parents, he is the person that really shaped my understanding, shall we say, the most about life in general.
So, who would be a dream guest, a dream interview to have on your podcast?
Right now, I will answer you, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is that?
He has explored and studied, and he's living it with his events. I don't know if you are familiar at all with his work, but I
Yeah.
am great. This merging of the scientific world with the spiritual world that he does, and how I think it is a marvelous effort. It is something that I believe that we're heading towards or heading towards as humanity. I think it's happening. So I'm very much inspired by him and respect him very much. And there is not a single time that I would listen to something he says, and it's not something really impactful. He's very wise in his topic. So yeah, that's my answer why I would invite him or have him as my dream guest, as you say.
Yeah, sure. So let me ask you this. What is your motivation every day to do the work that you do, to have a quality podcast, live your life, accomplish your goals? What is that for you?
It's a great question, Joe. I think the first thing that I will say is it comes from within, but that's not the motivation. I mean, but I am. It's two factors. One of them is the factor of growth, of personal growth or personal development, which is really, high value of mine. And I feel that it's, in a way, also my duty. In my life's path, I have to, because that's how I feel. So that's one motivator. The other motivator is to actually make the world a better place with my role, what I can do with my superpower, with my ability to influence my audience so that they can take some action, do something different, and live a better life at the end of the day. So I think these are the main motivators that get me out of bed in the morning to do it as best as I can.
So you're helping people obviously with personal development, and I'm curious, what's been one of the best pieces of feedback that you've gotten from your podcast or any work professionally that you've done that always puts a smile on your face?
I will ask you to very kindly guide me to a more specific thing because there are so many things that come to mind and I can't pick one. Are you talking about me being a podcast host or something I got from a client? What was the
It could be either or, something that like the first guttural response, like something that you've done professionally where you're like, that was great. Somebody reached out and it was wonderful.
Okay, I will tell one thing that comes to mind now, which is weird actually, but I'll be very open and share it transparently. It was at some point when I had spoken with Dr. John DeMartini in my podcast, and actually that was very interesting because I was stressed out. It was the first time that I had someone so very well known in the personal development world in my podcast. So it was about a year afterwards that I received an email from his assistant that was saying that he enjoyed very much being on your show and would you like to have him again? To which I replied, it would be a real pleasure. So that's something, Joe, these questions, I mean, I could, there are so many different things that,
Sure.
and I wouldn't say that there is one that is so massive that stands out in among all the other ones. There are many, but because you asked me for a visceral response, that's the one that I I
I like it.
gave.
Yeah, I like it. So let me ask you this, of all of the things that you've done and accomplished in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I'm proudest of my big shift as a person when I was in my early 40s, when I realized that the life that I was living as a dentist, despite my degrees, my accomplishments there, my master degree, I, I realized that my path was not there. My fulfillment would not come from there. And I decided consciously to change that. So I think that is for me the biggest accomplishment, because I think it's important for, and maybe as someone listening to this right now and feeling that, you know what, I'm in a safe, secure environment professionally, shall we say, but I feel empty. And that's how I was feeling. What I want to, and that's why I'm proud of, is that we don't have to, remain in that. It is up to us to change it, and it will be challenging, yeah, of course, but you will grow from it and you will inspire others by doing it. And at the end of the day, it's your life and your fulfillment. So I think that is, for me, the most important thing one can aspire to: live a fulfilled life, and not just, work around the clock 7 days a week and year after year. Especially if they don't like it. If they like it, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. If you have a dream tonight and you ran into a 20-year-old version of yourself and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life up to this point, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would tell him, believe in yourself, and that voice, in that little voice inside you, that you don't believe it, you don't trust it, that you think it's not right. This is the true voice. It's not the shouting of the fears and what other people think. It is your life. You know inside of you what it is that you want. Believe in yourself and go get it, because you're meant for that.
So coming from Greece, there's so many wonderful stories of civilization and history and mythology that happen. But I'm
Mhm.
curious if you could witness one thing that happened on this planet in the history of recorded events, what would you love to have seen firsthand?
That's, I was never asked that before. One thing, oh goodness, I would go back to ancient Greece. There you go, it came to me. I would go back to ancient Greece. I don't remember the year exactly. I think it was around 300 BC, where the movement, or the disciples, I would say, of Stoic philosophy was born. It is something that I have really enjoyed reading, and it shaped very much my mindset. So that's when it originated from somewhere in Athens, in a place like a marketplace. It was actually so. I would like to witness that and see the birth of that philosophy, which is still very relevant today
Yeah.
as it was back, 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Everyone out there has a perception of you. Family,
Mm.
friends, clients, colleagues, listeners, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am? You know, I could, a part of me wanted to start by, reciting an elevator pitch of some kind, but that is not who I am. Things that I do don't necessarily define me. So I will answer your question in a different way. I think I'm a good person. I'm a kind person. I'm someone who wants to inspire some positive change around. So that's who I am.
I like it. I like it. So if anyone wants to listen and subscribe to your podcast, learn more about you, reach out to you, what's the best way to do that?
Sure. The best way, I think, is to go, since you're listening to a podcast right now, you can go to my podcast, which is called Personal Development Mastery. You will find it wherever you listen to your podcast from. So there you will find out how to contact me if you go there. I think that's a best hub to start. And I also would like to offer a gift to your audience, Joe, if that's all right. I have recently completed my first book, which
Wonderful.
is taken from content from the podcast, or the conversations I had in the podcast. So I would like to offer it as a gift to your listeners, in the hope that they will find there the insight that they can implement into their life. And you can find that if you go to agikeramidas.com, which is my name, /88. So you can get a free copy of it, and I hope you find it useful.
I love it. Agi, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your story. It's wonderful. I appreciate it. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you very much, Joe. It was a delight to be here.
Absolutely, it was. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.